The Drum Candy podcast is brought to you by Drum Factory Direct.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into episode 51, aka the 1-year anniversary of the Drum Candy podcast. This is your host, Mike Dawson, coming to you from Drum Factory Direct in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's hard to believe 1 year ago today, on May 13th, 2021, was when we launched the show. This year has flown by. It's been amazing to reconnect with some of my favorite drummers and biggest influences and friends and titans of the industry. And all of your support has been really, really welcome. Thank you all so much for listening. We've got a lot of new ideas in store. Last week, we started our 10 Reasons to Love series with Tom and Dave. That's going to continue once a month moving forward. I'm going to try to do in-person interviews more often now that people are back on the road and touring. We have a lot more opportunity to get together face-to-face. I think it's a much better experience when I can sit down with someone. Case in point, this week I headed back over to Hawthorne Drum Shop to meet up with Giuseppe Cavalupo of The Devil Wears Prada. He is just off the first leg of the tour, so I wanted to get the lowdown on what's the touring experience like in 2022 for a modern metal band. Giuseppe's also a tour manager for the band, so a lot of this conversation talks about how he splits his time between having to maintain his chops and focus and strength to play some really extreme music while also having to be the default band dad on the road. So this is a lot of fun. Again, thank you all so much for supporting the show. Head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, drop a review. That will certainly help. And if you're only listening to this in audio form, make sure you head over to the Drum Factory Direct YouTube channel and subscribe there. Every podcast episode is in video form there and a lot of other cool content. So let's get to the show. Here's Giuseppe Cavalupo. All right, let's get this thing started. So you're fresh off the first leg of touring.
Yeah.
How did it feel to get back on the road?
Well, this was our second run, pandemic style.
Okay.
The first one we did was back in the fall of 2021. Yes, 2021. That one was like September, October. That fall tour was definitely still pretty weird because there was very strict COVID protocol. Like masks when you're in the venue. Only time you're taking off is when you're getting on stage to play. Mm-hmm. Not really a whole lot of mingling with the other tour camps. There's no guests backstage whatsoever. No eating or drinking outside of like the venue. So like all your food's going to be takeout. You can't go to bars afterwards.
Holy smokes.
So like that tour was it was still a fun tour and super successful tour, but it was definitely very challenging to navigate. Because most of the times when you're having fun on tour, you go out to the bar for a drink afterwards. Right. You go to your favorite restaurants and coffee shops to eat and drink. And it's just very weird, very dystopian. It felt like a...
How many bands?
That tour was a 4-band package. And this tour we just finished up was also a 4-band package.
How do you stay out of each other's way in that situation?
That one was really difficult. It was still like a lot of intermingling. Like thankfully nobody got sick.
Yeah.
On the fall tour or this tour we just wrapped up either. So I would consider ourselves very fortunate. But this last tour we just wrapped up, everything was super lax. We were eating out, we were going to bars. Yeah. Like it was the most normal that we had felt in a long time because we got to enjoy all the normalcies of being on tour. Didn't have to mask up backstage and stuff, which like that part felt a little bizarre, just coming out of that fall run and, still having some pandemic tendencies into what it is now. It was still... It was refreshing to be able to like loosen up a little bit and not have to be as hyper vigilant. It's not like we're out running around the crowd or anything during the show. It's just the touring parties and we're hanging out with each other and stuff. But like the touring party was keeping pretty insular outside of like when we would have significant others or guests backstage.
Was the local crew still masking up or was everyone kind of
50-50?
Okay.
There were some venues where like if it was like a union show, then like they would be masked up the entire time. And it was just super refreshing to be able to, go to my favorite bar, go to one of my favorite coffee shops and actually like sit down in there in the morning because tour managing and drumming is a lot.
We'll come back to that for sure.
But so the first thing that I'll do when I start my day is wake up early. If I have to help the bus driver get parked up, I'm on standby for that because I try to be the first one asleep if I can be.
What is that usually? What time?
For me, like midnight, 12:30.
Okay.
Around that, so not super late.
This is on the bus?
Yeah.
What are the other guys doing?
Bus call averages between like if it's not a terrible drive, bus call by default will be like 2 a.m. You know, if it's a super short drive, sometimes we'll push it till 3 because some of the boys, you know, will like to go out and, you know, party with the other camps. There have been some troublemakers that have been late to bus call, but at the end of the day, it's like it's their business, their LLC, they're my higher up bosses.
Right.
So it's like, hey, you guys want to go have fun, As long as you're safe and you get back to the bus safely, whatever time that might be. As long as you're safe and you're okay, I won't complain.
Are you the band dad?
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, I don't make like any of the executive business decisions, band dad stuff, but as far as like making sure my boys have what they need, yeah, I'm band dad.
Interesting.
I'm band dad for sure. I mean, I'm the oldest in the band.
Okay. Does that come natural to you?
No.
Okay.
Not at all, actually. Normally, I'm the one that needs like heavy adult supervision just
Interesting.
because of ADHD. It's like, stay on task, stay focused here.
Okay.
And I'm like, ooh, butterflies, ooh, ice cream, ooh, puppies. That's normally me. So it's been a challenge to kind of like shift into other mode. We're like, okay, I'm responsible for all these people now.
Now, is tour managing this last run different than in previous runs, or is it?
So this is only my second tour managing in addition to drumming. And I mean, being a support act for a headliner in TMing, it's super easy. So I'm collecting, catering budget and buyouts for the guys, printing out set lists, printing out the day sheet, organizing the parking maps for our driver, interfacing between the driver and the band, interfacing between the venue and house personnel and the band, settling at the end of the night, all that stuff. So it's not very difficult. It's just little moving parts that are definitely nuanced, and like rebuilding them into the rituals and the timeline of your normal day. So like for me as a drummer, normally before tour, I took on tour managing, and I stumbled into the tour managing role because I come from bar management experience. So applying that in the music industry with, guys in the band that I've known since we were all teenagers when everything was still DIY and, VFW floor shows and stuff. Yeah. This was a pretty easy transition, but there are little nuanced things that you don't think about until you're like in a tour management position where you're like, oh, okay, like this guy likes this specific beverage on stage. This is where this band member likes his set list and his stage towel and his drinks. These are some of the snacks we want on the hospitality rider. And I actually have like an A, B, and C rider. So if like the storage for like our drinks and stuff on the bus are, getting to capacity, then I can hit up the headliner TM and say, hey, can you double check and switch to our C rider for this next show, because all we need now is water. We're good on beers, we're good on snacks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's a lot to like stay on top of, especially on this last tour. They were shopping hospitality rider like 2 days out. So trying to kind of anticipate what the drink situation or the snack situation is going to be 2 days out. When I'm like, oh, I have to also think about playing the show tonight.
Right?
I also have to warm up. So there are days where it's definitely challenging, but then for the most part, especially having ADHD, it's like, this is kind of like autopilot. Because when I first started doing it on the last tour in the fall, I just kind of like wrote out my day schedule. Yeah. And what it looks like, and just making sure that I highlighted all of the tasks that were like most in order of importance and the timeline for the day. And that kind of helped me like build a routine for what my day looks like. So like I'll wake up, make coffee, print the set lists for that night, print the day sheet for that night, hang that on the bus door. If there's a schedule change, I'll text the group chat and say, hey, there's a schedule change for tonight. It's not going to be the standard it's not going to be the standard on stage time. Doors are pushed up or doors are later. Just kind of like making sure that the band has the most up-to-date information and communicating that with everybody. So it's just a constant communication thing. That's what it is.
Do you make sure to take care of yourself as well? I mean, because you're taking care of your band, but do you...
This last tour was definitely more challenging in that, right? Because bigger shows, larger crowds than the fall tour, a little bit more moving parts, some longer drives. I definitely didn't struggle to take care of myself on this last tour, but there were some times where like I noticed that I was having like a pretty stressful day, and like remembering to check in on yourself. Like there were a couple times on this last tour I'm like, I definitely need a fucking day off. Right? I need a day off where I don't have to think about drums. I don't have to think about washing stage clothes. I don't have to think about... There was a couple days on this last tour where I'm like, I'm gonna need a vacation after this tour. And normally tour is vacation. Yeah. Because you're you know, getting paid to travel and play shows with your best friends.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's a vacation.
And it's not like you're playing mellow acoustic trio music either. So physically and mentally, you've got to be on point.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah. And like our set on this last run, it was a short 30-minute set. You know, and ever since I quit smoking, it's been a lot easier to just kind of breeze through the set, and I'm not totally gassed by the end of it. I mean, I try to leave it all on stage for sure, because like I want to make sure that the fans coming to the shows are getting everything. You know, they're getting 150% of me, regardless on, you know, if I'm having a stressful day, regardless if I'm having like the best day ever. Like I want, for me, when people come to a Prada show, I want to give them the consistency and the high energy show that they would expect. You know, because like, end of the day, like I remember going to shows as a kid, and you know it's like $5 to go to like a hardcore show or a punk show, and you leave that show and people are bleeding,
right?
You know what I mean? People are like swinging in the pit for blood, and that was, you know, kind of the scene that I was born into. I mean, granted, like there were very few bands that I come out of mosh retirement for.
I think I retired when I was like 16.
Yeah. Well, especially now, like that I actually have to take care of my body and make sure that I'm not getting hurt so I can, you know, perform.
Yeah.
That's another challenge too, because, you know, being 34, soon to be 35, you know, like I would like to think that I'm in my prime, but, you know, if I lift weights too heavy the one day, or, you know, like I work out too aggressively and then I'm sore, very sore 2 days later, I'm like, harder to get out of bed. You feel your knees creaking a little bit. It's like, oh man, okay, this is a little more challenging than I thought.
Did it take you a while to get your sea legs for this run? Like the whole band, did it take a minute to be like, oh, now we're rolling?
Surprisingly not. So the way that it works out pre-tour, what we do, our key player is essentially our music director. So like he's a professional producer. In addition, he was a young Boston Berkeley grad. And he'll write out like the tempo maps and click tracks and rehearsal tracks for the entire set list with the interludes built in and everything.
Nice.
So about a month to like a couple weeks out, he'll send that out to everybody so everybody can like do their homework and rehearse on their own. So by the time we all get together in Kansas City for a full band rehearsal, we only have to do 2 days of rehearsals before the tour starts. So by the point we get in for full band rehearsals, everybody's already been playing through the set on their own time for, you know, weeks. So by the time the first show comes along, it's like, yeah, you're a little sore after the first show because, you know, you're headbanging, you know,
right.
Obviously.
You can't practice that energy.
No, because when I get on stage, like, I feed off that energy of just seeing the crowd. Like, there were a couple of shows on this tour where our band, for a lot of the fans coming to the show, were new people that haven't really seen us before and didn't really know what our band's about. So that was a unique thing, being in a room of an average of 1,400 people, and these people coming in, not seeing a Prada show before, and be like, all right, let's see what this band's about. And then I absolutely have to give them 150% because I want them to come back. And it was definitely, like, at the end of the day, I felt it a lot. Physically, you know, just in my neck and my back from all the headbanging, you know, like literally like swinging for blood on my cymbals, you know. Sorry, Zojin.
Did you break any?
Broke 2.
Did you?
I broke 2. I broke my 18K special dry trash china, the one with all the holes in it.
Oh, yeah.
And the my 10-inch Oriental china trash.
Oh, those are probably the ones you would expect to break.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, the 10-inch Oriental china trash, it broke around the actual hole.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I have a sleeve on this cymbal sleeve on the stand that it's on. So, but I've also had that specific cymbal now for a couple years. So I think it was just like constant wear and tear. It finally just a weird break, but and I don't hit terribly hard.
But how many times are you hitting that sucker?
A lot. It's just like a lot of, you know, your linear, you know, 30-second note fills where you're doing the, you know, all the like accents and stuff going back and forth between a baby china and the open hats, all that stuff.
What's the rest of your kit? What's the cymbals?
So I'm playing, this was my first tour with 15-inch hi-hats. I finally graduated to 15-inch hi-hats.
And you got the sweets or the lights?
The 15K lights.
And you love them, or?
Unbelievable.
Yeah?
Unbelievable. Like, the only other ones that I feel like I really want to try now are the Concept fat hats.
Those are 15s, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just 'cause I've seen so many videos on this. All the videos, they just sound incredible. All the testimonials about them are like, dude, the most versatile hats. It can play any gig. So now I just want to try them on principle alone.
Yeah, right. So why 15s? Why'd you move up?
Well, here at the drum shop, Chris has got his 16-inch hats all over the place, and they all sound so good.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I was playing the 14-inch Avidus reissues.
Nice.
I got those in that 22 Avidus reissue ride when they first launched because I wanted like the almost paper thin feel with like that versatile hi-hat sound where you could use it for just about anything, and that was my go-to hi-hat for a long time. To the point where in recordings, when it got to the studio time, I have a pair of vintage New Beats that I keep as my like B rig. I just always keep in my drum coffin, and a lot of the producers we worked with would bring in like super heavy, like master sounds or those vintage New Beats, just because they're like a lot brighter in the studio, and especially playing metal, that's what like a lot of the producers wanted, was more like defined sticking, where the Avidus reissue 14s were like a little more wash, a little bit lighter. But to me, it's like that's a pleasant sound for the ear. But obviously, recording, it's like you want something that's a little more big picture, broad strokes. But other cymbals in the setup, my left crash is the 19-inch K-Custom Hybrid. Thank you, Akira Jimbo. I love those. I go back and forth between 22 Avidus ride, 21 K Suite ride, and the original 21 Suite ride. Right crash, I go back and forth between the 20K Custom Dark Thin or the 20K Cluster, because I just love that 20K Cluster, just dirt.
Yeah.
It's super loud, super explosive. And
those rides seem a little light, I would expect, for your
the
band.
The K Suite 21 is just got really great definition, because for the metal ride, there's not a lot of actual like, I don't need a ping ride for that kind of stuff, because there's not a lot of heavy ride work. It's more crash.
Oh, it's a washier ride vibe.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you playing bell a lot, or?
Not really.
Okay.
They're more like, there's a couple like bell accents, but I'm not just like riding the bell really at all. Back in like the mid 2000s when like the Zill bell was the thing.
Yeah.
Like my old bands, I used the Zill bell a lot. I had the 9.5 and the 6, and they had their own cymbal arms. So, have you ever heard of a band called August Burns Red?
Yeah.
I would say Matt Greiner is a large part of the reason for like our scene that the Zill bell became a thing. Just all the linear double bass fills using both bells.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
so when did that kind of fall out of favor? I have to admit I'm ignorant to the.
For me personally, I killed that off for myself as a drummer probably around, I'd say like 2009, 2010. I started playing for a band called Haste the Day in 2009, which was like a pretty prominent Christian metalcore band out of Indianapolis on Solid State Records. And I got in with them because of the first band that I had toured with in my late high school years into my first like national touring career. When like the Zill bell was just still the thing. Everybody would put up memes on the internet that just has a picture of a Zill bell and hand in a drumstick. Is like, if you hear this sound, prepare for the apocalypse. Because that was always the thing. Right before a breakdown, you would hear that ping.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Or 4 China hits. China open hi-hat. Cue the wall of death.
Oh, shoot. All right, what are the drums?
Drums, Q Drum Co., Orange County, galvanized. 12 up, 16 down, 22-16 kick. And on this last run, I went back and forth between the 14 by 5.5 Gentleman's Raw steel and the 8 by 14 plate steel by Q.
That's a monster.
It's a girthy little pig. that thing had a throat on it for sure.
Now, how do you choose which drum to use?
Literally, I would just go back and forth.
Okay.
So the 8 by 14 I was borrowing from Roger from Q Drums, who's essentially my artist rep and one of the most badass humans out there. Love you, Roger. He let me borrow that before Chris gave me the Gentleman's Raw steel for Christmas this past year. It was pre-pandemic. I had ordered a snare, and that was right before the tour that got canceled 2 weeks into it when the pandemic first hit. So Jeremy from Q sent me back my money and was just like, dude, like, hold on to this. We'll get you a snare, when the timing's right. He's like, but with tours dropping and stuff, just like take the money for now, and
that's nice.
we'll get you sorted when everything levels out again.
And it never did.
And it took almost 3 years. But I finally ordered a 7x14 Q plate brass, so that should hopefully be wrapped up before the summer headliner tour.
Nice.
So I'll have that and the 5.5 raw steel. Those will be my.
What are your heads of choice?
Right now on Tom's, the Evans UV2s.
Mm-hmm. Are they holding up good?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I didn't change I changed my Tom heads once on this tour.
And that was how many shows?
30 something. 30.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the coating doesn't come off, right?
Oh. And I'm hitting pretty fucking hard. Snare head. I went back and I did a lot of experimenting on this last tour just because. I'm still trying to find out what's the best snare sound for, those snares that I was playing. Mm-hmm. So I went back and forth between a G1.
G1?
Yeah, a G1, an ST.
Okay.
And
I like the ST.
And a UV1.
Okay.
I love how the UV1s sound and feel on a snare batter because, they didn't dent up at all, really. But in some rooms, the UV1s on a snare batter kind of sound a little choked. The ST ended up being the true winner. The G1 felt and sounded the best to me, but I was only getting 2 shows out of them.
I would think 30 minutes.
Yeah, and metal, which I tried to be as gentle with it as I could while still giving it that good metal rim shot. But
the ST I think is a sleeper head.
The ST was great. So the ST, it's like the power dot. The reverse power dot just without the dot. It's that 2 plies of 7.5. Mm-hmm. And it sounded incredible out front. And at first I was tuning my snare a little bit higher, but when I put the ST on that 5.5 by 14 gentleman's raw steel and tuning it to mid high, letting it sink in a little bit, it just had so much body for a 5.5 inch deep snare. You felt it in your chest out of front of house. Because what our front of house engineer Chris would do is he would record the set the night before to essentially do a virtual sound check the next day. Mm-hmm. Since all we really got to do was a quick line check before the set actually started.
Right.
So when everything was getting backlined, he would do a virtual sound check, and I'd get to listen back on how my snare sounded the night before. So I kind of got to hear what it would sound like and then dial it in a little bit more if I needed to tweak something on the fly because I had a reference point from the night before. And even though that's going to change room to room, as you know, just as well as anybody else, even having that little bit of a cheat sheet to be okay, this snare could come down a little bit to thicken it up a little bit with the mix.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
So are you using any dampening?
On Tom's or snare, no. At first, the first couple shows of the tour, I had half a moon gel on the snare just to kill off a little bit of the ring. But then our front of house was dude, just play it open. I was for real? He's yeah. All right, sick. And listening back on the virtual sound checks, I'm oh, he's not wrong. This sounds incredible. And the UV2s are just mute. They're thick enough where they don't resonate super heavily, but just enough to give it that true fat metal tom sound, but still having the warmth and depth of a coated head. So it's the best. It's a sweet spot, the best of both worlds.
It's a cool head, yeah.
I wanna play a funk drum kit for metal. You know what I mean? You sit behind a head with coated tom heads. You're this feels incredible.
Yeah.
This sounds incredible. And you're but I have to play metal.
What's on the kick?
Kicks EMAD heavyweight, pillowed to hell and back. No triggers.
No triggers.
They're
just
en natural. I told myself pretty early on, if I can't fucking play the part equally with a double bass pedal, and it's not to say that triggering is cheating, because obviously whenever you're if you're recording a pop record or a metal record or hip hop record, there's going to be some sample blending with the stuff anyway, just to get that thicken out and
the attack.
However producers make that magic happen. Mm-hmm. So it's not to say that triggering is cheating per se, but for me it was just a personal challenge of I want to be able to play this stuff at even velocity with a double kick pedal and make it sound like it's triggered. Only for the bragging right of, dude, do you trigger your kick drum?
No. Just to be able to say no.
Just to be able to say no, because playing with a double kick pedal is a very challenging thing when you're playing a single kick drum.
Yeah.
Because like there's one pedal I have the Trick Pro 1V double pedal, and that's such an incredible, like, beautifully over-engineered pedal. It's built of aluminum and titanium and looks like a spaceship beneath your tootsies. But the problem with that is the right cam, where the right beater is directly dead center on a 22-inch diameter head, which means that left cam is just a little off-center. So as soon as you start tearing through that bass head after a couple shows, you're going to hear the inconsistencies in strokes.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Regardless, if you're playing, your strokes at a very even velocity and you're very balanced, the head's not going to, because that left beater is not center. Whereas my main pedal, the Pro Eliminator Redline belt-driven double pedal, the right cam on that double pedal is just off-centered enough, so both the right and left beaters split the difference of dead center. So you're going to get, like, even strokes the whole time.
Interesting. Are you using, like, a patch on the head?
Yeah, just the that nylon double EQ patch.
Oh, so it's a thin one. It's not like a big, thick, attacking Kevlar thing.
Yeah, I just it's more just something to, like, protect the head, because like I'm playing with the Pearl quad beater on, like, the plastic side of it, just to give it a little more.
Are you tearing through kick heads?
Nope.
Interesting.
No, I have the tension on the Pro Eliminators cranked, and have the blue cams on them, so it doesn't have the, like, the fulcrum that, like, a DW pedal has, where it's like, if you're digging into that head, you're going to snap that head in, like, 3 shows.
Oh, okay.
So this is definitely more controlled, more even. Like, as soon as it hits, it's out of the way.
Yeah, okay.
That's why, like, I have the tension cranked on those pedals, because it's a lot of very fast, very syncopated footwork.
What is your pre-show routine? How do you keep yourself sharp for this type of a show?
I'll throw on a metronome on my phone, and I have a Pearl Demon Drive pedal that I warm up with, and one of those, like, little DW Smart Practice kits, where it's like just like that single stand that has, like, a little kick pad thing on it, and a couple pads on it, and then just a double-sided Evans Real Feel pad, or the Pro Mark Real Feel pad, and I'll just do, paradiddle pyramid. I'll keep 16ths with my feet the entire time when I'm doing my exercises, but basic rudiments, like good old 8 on a hand.
And when do you do this? Like before? How long before the show?
Really, in like 15, 20 minutes right before the set.
Okay, so right before you go on.
Yeah, and with heavier sticks too, just to, like, so when I actually pick up, I'm playing the Pro Mark Shirakashi Oak Neil Peart 747s.
On stage?
Yeah.
That's a heavy stick.
It's actually pretty light.
Really?
Yeah, the 747 is, like, kind of like a longer 5A.
No. What am I thinking of?
You're thinking of the 808s.
Maybe.
The 808s are essentially like a 3A fatback.
And it's oak?
Japanese oak.
Yeah, the oak stuff wears me out, dude.
Does it?
Yeah.
Well, see, like, I like the oak because it doesn't splinter like hickory. So, like, one pair of sticks, I'll get, like, 3-4 shows out of a single pair of sticks.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I need to reevaluate. It's 747?
747.
All right, what's your warm-up stick then?
The BYOS marching stick.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I think they're like indoor sticks.
Yeah, so a little bit shorter, I think, than normal.
Yeah, like just good old core sticks, because, like, that really gets that biker bubble working.
Do you do any, like, jump rope or jumping jacks or stretching? Or
I stretch my legs out religiously, because that was one thing. We did an EP like a year and a half ago called Zombie 2, which was a follow-up to an earlier EP concept that the band had written before I jumped in, and it's the most physically aggressive and challenging stuff to play in their discography. It's essentially like almost like death metal, like very, very intense footwork. Like sextuplets at like 30-second note sextuplets at like 150 some BPM.
Yeah, that's a lot.
With your feet. And that was the shit that I didn't write. Then the stuff that I wrote now, there's the last song on the EP is called Contagion. The verses in that song are bananas, because my feet are going, dun.
And what the hell's going on over top?
8s on the hand, snare on 2 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all feet.
So you're stretching your hips out. I mean,
Stretching the hips, stretching the calves. A lot of like side lunges, forward lunges, dips. I'll do like a couple jump squats just to like get the quads and the glutes firing on all cylinders.
now what about after the shows? Do you have like a cool down? How do you keep yourself from getting tore up?
I drank so much water, so, and some protein.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I'll drink like plant-based protein shake. Like there's a company called Evol. I drink their stuff pretty religiously. Or like if I can't find that, muscle milk, just some sort of protein to like keep the muscles from like deteriorating essentially, because
eating themselves.
It's a full-on workout, and like burning that many calories during a very short set. It's like I don't have a lot of calories to throw around.
Yeah.
So I'll try to stack a couple carbs. It's like training, I guess, for like a football match. You want to eat carbs before, hydrate your little butt off as much as possible. So some people are like, yeah. So like, what do you drink when you play? Or like, let's go get drinks or something before you play. I'm like, no, I don't drink before I play. I drink water. I drink protein. Maybe I should start drinking some pre-workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a couple beers would be a terrible idea.
Dude, there was one show. I think I played one show like actually intoxicated, and that was when we were in France, of course, years ago. This was 2016. We were playing in Lyon, France, and we found this like antique, like beautiful wine bar and restaurant, like in Old Town in Lyon, just like beautiful. And we were with our pals in Silverstein, these wonderful Canadian gentlemen that have a fine taste for the finer things in life, and they appreciate wine just like me and some of the Prada boys do. So we went to this wine bar, and we were just getting bottles on bottles on bottles before a set. I remember getting back to the show, and just when I would have like a couple drinks before a show, trying to play metal, I personally would just feel so sluggish on all the fast stuff. Mm-hmm. And even with the adrenaline rush that you get from being on stage in front of that many people, normally it balances itself out where, because of the adrenaline that I have coursing through my veins and the excitement for playing a show in front of all these people, sometimes the songs feel slow.
Right.
But even when if I'm boozed up, I'm like, oh my gosh, like my legs can't keep up with this. I'm fatigued. Then you're tensing up the wrong muscles.
Start cramping.
You start cramping. You start like fisting the drumstick, and then this muscle cramps up, then this muscle cramps up, and then you're just struggling to finish the set. So like after that one show back in 2016, I'm like, dude, I'm literally never drinking before a show ever again, period. I mean, and even to this day, like I'm still not even a massive drinker. Like even as a part-time bartender, I still like, I don't booze up like I used to. I love a good cocktail. I love a good glass of wine. Occasionally I'll treat myself to a beer just because like my stomach's this big. I can't really fit many beers in them.
I mean, to play the music you're playing, I would think you need to be. It's like you're in season for baseball or something. Yeah. Like you can't be messing around.
Yeah, and there's some folks that can crush beers and crush drinks and stuff before they play,
bless them.
And it works for them. And I guess at the end of the day, it's like you got to listen to what your body's telling you and do the best with what you got for what you think the job is.
What's your diet on the road?
About average. For me, breakfast is still super important. So I keep like that Kodiak brand, like Kodiak.
Oh yeah,
Kodiak cakes.
Yep.
I'll keep like their oatmeal in standby in my little cupboard. Because for me, like even if it's just some like granola cereal with some almond or oat milk, or like that oatmeal, just something to tide me over until we like get to a venue and I can go like seek out breakfast. Get some eggs in me, get like a little avocado toast. Because just breakfast to me is the most important meal. Because I don't really eat lunch that often. But I am also the kind of guy that can still, stack up right before a set and play a set fine.
At lunchtime, you're probably in like TM mode.
Yeah. So I'll and sometimes I will get hungry, so I'll like Postmate something, which I got to stop using Postmates because it's so damn expensive. Like I remember there was nothing around us one night, or the one night for dinner. So like I Postmate some Taco Bell for like me and a couple of the dudes. It ended up being like a $75 Taco Bell order.
Yeah, Taco Bell. How would you get 300 tacos?
Basically. Well, no, just for like delivery fees, and then you tip the driver, because like I'm a service industry guy, so like I have to tip anybody who's doing a thing where there's an option to tip them.
That's funny.
But like the end of the day, it's like this is not fucking sustainable at all.
Oh, yeah.
I spent $75 for a crew on Taco Bell. Like even with them Venmoing me back, my meal still costs like almost $25 for fucking Taco Bell.
Garbage, yeah, make you feel sick. Do you guys ever get a hotel, or do you sleep on the bus?
We do hotels on the off days.
Okay.
Just so like people, when we'll just all split a room, just so people can spread out, shower, just kind of have a place that's not in a vehicle that has a generator that you can still kind of hear.
Yeah. So let's say you've got a run of 3 days with no days off. How do you take care of yourself?
That's child's play.
Yeah?
3 days.
So what, do you shower at the venues? I mean,
No, so the vehicle that we've been using the last couple of years is called a bandwagon.
Okay.
It's essentially, it's a company out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. It used to be a part of the Northern Gold Bus fleet. The first one I took out was 2010 Warped Tour, when there was only 2 and they were just prototypes. It's a Peterbilt truck, like box truck, and the truck has a driver cab in it, so the driver has like a bed and stuff. And they have their own drivers. There's like a team of dudes in like the scene that drive these bandwagons.
Okay.
And the whole back area is a 9 to 12 bunk like condo. So there's like a small front lounge area, flat screen TV, full size refrigerator, 2 couches, a small like diner car desk / work desk, and that's normally like my printer lives under the seat. And then in place of where the back lounge would be on a traditional Prevost bus is a full bathroom.
Oh.
So there's a toilet, full shower, sink, mirror, and overhead storage for like DOP kits, toiletry bags and stuff.
Full shower? How much water is that thing carrying around?
I don't know the exact size of the tank, but everybody like on a day where the venue doesn't have a shower can take like an actual like proper 5-minute hot fucking shower.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you have to fill it up every couple
night.
of days? Every night?
Yeah, if everybody's showering on it, of course. So like, yeah, like most truck stops, if they have a water connection, because we keep like a hose in one of the bays, so that the driver knows like every night to just stop and make sure that it's topped up, because there's a sink back there, so like everybody like wash their coffee mugs and stuff.
I didn't know those had a shower, and that's crazy. So you can go a run without having to.
Yeah, you don't need a hotel. It's the only rule is there's no shitting on the bandwagon.
So was that who can get off the bus first to take the christen the venue?
Well, I send the driver's number out to everybody beginning of tour. It's like if anybody has like a midnight shit attack or something, there's 2 rules. You can text a driver if you're not comfortable doing the hot bag deal, or you hot bag it.
I don't even want to know what the heck you're talking about. Are you talking about pooping in a garbage bag?
Oh yeah,
heathens.
Oh dude, scalawags, man, true grade A scalawags. Well, that's the thing, everybody's like, well, dude, when you got to do your business, you do your business.
I'm like, sorry, dudes, I'm taking a shit on the bus.
Yeah. What do you
put it over a garbage can? How
no,
do you
put
it?
You essentially just line the toilet with it, because it's like an RV toilet, right? So
I've
there's like
never
the foot
heard
pedal
of such a thing.
Yeah, so what you do is you just like lift up the lid, you just line the toilet with a garbage bag real quick, shut it, and you do your business. Tie that thing off. If you're moving, text the driver, be like, hey, pull over, I got a hot bag situation, and get that shit out of there, dude.
You gotta be kidding me.
How
am I 43 years old and I'm just now hearing about a hot bag?
It's called tour hacks, bro.
That's disgusting.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like not glorious, but that's a thing.
I mean, why would you not just tell the driver to pull over?
Well, that's first form. That's the first thing. Hot bag is like
you're gonna crap your pants.
That's life or death. That's like either A, there's not a truck stop for like another like 80 miles, and like you're doing the thing, or you like just they just left a truck stop and you just woke up and we're not stopping for like another 4 hours or whatever until like the wagon gets to the venue or whatever the case may be. So it's like that's last resort.
You guys end up parking in like Walmart parking lots a lot?
Not super often. On this tour, one hack that our driver had was to just do like, instead of a Walmart, just pull over to a truck stop. Because then, there's restrooms, there's normally like fast food or something close by if it's one of those situations where it's like a drop and go where we have to wait to unload until like people are out of the loading area, go drop gear off, and then the wagon will go to like a secondary location. So everybody just kind of packs a day bag so the bus isn't coming back until load out. But yeah, there was a couple days where Walmart parking lot. There's a lot of Walmarts now that like don't allow RVs or like any of that overnight parking. Like, because normally the New York hack is like New York City hack is Secaucus, New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
And like those Walmarts and anything, like they don't allow like tour like buses or passenger buses or passenger like large scale commercial passenger vehicles anymore at all.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. So that's always the toughest part. I feel like the TM role is trying to suss out commercial parking for an oversized vehicle at a hotel for an off day.
Yeah, right.
Because we ended up still staying in Secaucus, but I had to call probably like 11 different hotels just to see who had parking that you didn't have to pay for. Because I remember there was one like right at like Lincoln Harbor. It was like a Sheraton or something, really beautiful hotel, and the boys wanted to take a New York off day, and that would have been like the coolest hotel to stay in because you can like see the city. It's right on the water,
right?
And from the overhead, it looked like they had a massive parking lot. I'm like, you could fit like so many tour buses in there. It's great. I was like, how much is it going to cost? I called them. I said, hi, my name's so and so. I'm a Hilton Honors member. I'm looking to rent or buy a room for the night. But I just wanted to make sure you guys had offers for oversized parking available. They're like, yeah, about how big is your vehicle? I said, with the trailer, it's about 59 feet long. They're like, all right, that'll be about $1,200.
Hey, yo.
I'm like, your hotel room to book is $130, and you want to charge me $1,200 to park a fucking vehicle there overnight?
That's
okay.
why I left New Jersey, brother.
Yeah. I'm like, I appreciate your time. I hope you have a spectacular day. We'll talk soon. Peace. No, not at all. Dude, it was, but like finding that balance, right? That's the tricky part. I mean, and that's the job, making sure you can have all the amenities, all of the creature comforts and things with keeping the overhead as low as possible.
What do you do, like, if you're going from, like, I don't know, OKC to Little Rock or something?
Or like an overdrive?
Yeah.
Overdrives, I mean, most booking agents are pretty merciful when it comes to the overdrive, but there's some routings it just doesn't work out that way with, how agents will buy the shows and put holds on venues where you can't escape, that
13 hours or something.
And the longest one we had on this last drive, I think it was like a 10-hour drive. And for overdrives in the U.S., I think for bus drivers is anything over 450 miles.
Okay.
Is considered an overdrive, which for the driver is double pay.
Oof.
So that can get expensive, and obviously fuel right now is fucking bananas.
Yeah.
But that's when it's early bus call. So with merch, after our merch guy settles up at the end of the night, the earliest that he can really get out of the venue is midnight. So if he can have all the stuff packed and like back to the wagon by like midnight, and he's always really good about it. But first and foremost, the most important thing is merch. Like, because that's how any touring artist is going to make like a bulk of the money to pay staff, personnel, recycle back into printing more designs. Like, merch is king.
Yeah, so you're not going to shut that down.
Not going to shut that down for anything. So if he's got a line and he's not getting out of there till 12:30, 12:45, that's what it is.
So be it.
That's how we all eat. So like, if it's going to be a long drive, because ultimately the goal for most band folks don't want to wake up and still have the vehicle moving.
Yeah.
It's like, it's nice to wake up and you're just at the venue.
Yeah.
So we try to make that happen as much as possible. And there's sometimes you just can't escape it if it's a long drive. In a situation like that where merch was doing really well the night before, so it had to stay open a little bit later, shut it down, and then bus call got pushed back by 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. Small price to pay.
You still drive straight through, or do you have to stop?
Straight through.
Okay.
Straight through. Yeah, for sure. I mean, because most the load-ins on this last tour, like high noon load-ins for us,
It's pretty early.
Noon for a 4-band package and like a 1,500 cap for us is probably about average.
Okay.
And it definitely felt super early, but for us, once we got into the rhythm of things, it ended up being closer to like a 12:45, 1 o'clock load-in. But I like to be as punctual as possible, at least for the camp. So like we're there, we're on site, and then just kind of wait for a text from the headliner TM to be like, all right, we're ready for you guys whenever you are. So that's their time.
Were you first of 4?
We were two out of 4 on this run.
Okay. So
Yeah,
how does that work with load in? That means you're third to load in?
Yes. So the production got in at like 8. Venue access on this last tour was like 8 a.m. And then audio and lights start load at like 9:30. because they had like a full on like LED like video wall that was like a pretty big build because it was on a floor unit. So rather than flying that, like that was they were building these vertical trusses and attaching the video wall to it
every single day.
Every single day.
That's wild.
I mean, the longest leg on this run that we did I think 6 shows back to back, and that's just because we did one off headliner on an off day when the rest of the tour package had an off day. And that week was a long week just because, playing a 30-minute set, not a big deal for me as a drummer because I don't have to sing. Mm-hmm. So I get to control my breathing, sit back in that pocket and just mercilessly groove while at the same time beating the piss out of my drums. But,
not chewing your voice up.
Yeah, that's a thing. Because like metal, our front man, Mike, he's screaming.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think both he and Jeremy trained with that Melissa Cross lady.
Okay.
She's like the metal vocalist coach. Okay. So like their technique and everything is great, but I still personally I have no idea what it means to be a vocalist. I don't know how all that works because there are times in the set where I'll be like screaming along because I'm just into the moment and I'll scream like a line
and you start coughing.
And I'm like, oh my God, my throat hurts so bad. How do you do this every night? And
that's a special breed, I think.
It very much is. And Mike, our front man, he's very quiet throughout the day because he knows like he's got to like rest his voice. And same with Jeremy. Sometimes the guy who does all the clean singing, like that vocal rest is a super important part of it. You
try to keep your body kind of mellow during the day.
Yeah, I like on an off day, like I'll hit the gym a little bit. Just do some light weights. This last tour, I started getting into the habit of getting on a treadmill a little bit. Not going like hard in the paint because I know like actually running is not super good for your knees. And, as a drummer, that's like one of the most important joints playing metal is like my knees. I'm always super worried about and super conscious about. So trying to find the balance now that I'm new to like running / jogging where I am doing cardio exercises to keep up stamina without injuring myself. Trying to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I tried running once the pandemic set in, and it was super cool for like 6 weeks, and all of a sudden my knees were like, "You are too big for this, buddy." Yeah, that's you should stop doing this.
Yeah, it's just like, for running, it's one of those weird things where it's like you think like, oh, I'm gonna put on tennis shoes and I'm gonna go for a run, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But there's apparently like, I haven't like researched it or anything. I'm not a professional. I've never run like a 5K or anything. Literally, this last tour was the first time I ever made it 3 miles on a treadmill. And I didn't even run it consecutively. I did 1 mile, then 2 minutes of like core and calisthenic exercises, back on for a mile, 2 minutes core calisthenics, and then the third mile and same thing to do like a circuit interval training. So like, I don't know if I have like proper technique or anything. I'm not going to go run a marathon anytime soon because like the worst thing that can happen is like I'll blow out a knee and then I'm down for how long? Because like I feel like it's easier to rest up and heal a bone than it is to heal a ligament, like a torn ligament or like a muscle or something like that. Like,
yeah, that'll nag you the whole tour.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to keep yourself sharp for the next run?
Oh, I'm doing like 3 days of workouts a week. Light jogging. I did like 2 days ago, I did about 1.5 mile jog. I have a bunch of free weights at home. One of those adjustable like dumbbell sets, some kettlebells. So a lot of body weight and core workout stuff just to like keep everything here and like all of this just kind of like even and more maintenance. And I'm trying to build a little bit more muscle now that I've finally quit smoking and can like actually.
I put on about 15 pounds when I quit. So.
Well, that's what I hear. I tried to quit a couple years ago. I quit for like 2 years. This is probably like a fucking decade ago now, but I remember my appetite spiked and I didn't necessarily put on weight because like I'm just a tiny person and sitting here I'm burning calories. I feel like I'm like, you can't see it, but I'm like just vibrating like a little
You don't
bumblebee.
actually sit, you're levitating.
Yes, literally. I am a hummingbird. You just can't see my wings flapping. But that's just what it is. Like, like I was saying earlier, I've been the same weight since like post high school, within like a pound or two, but it's never really fluctuated outside of that.
Good for you, man. This is crazy. A buddy of mine, I won't call him out, but he has a similar metabolism. He would drink non-alcoholic beer like nonstop. Like, what are you doing? He's like, I need the calories. Like, if I don't consume thousands of calories, I will disappear.
And that's what
That was
that's
the
what
strangest thing I've ever seen.
that's
Like pounding them.
That's wild. See, I'm not like a massive fan of the flavor of beer, so I just avoid it like the plague. And everyone's like, dude, if you want to put on weight, you just need to start drinking beer. And I'm like, I've made it 34 years without drinking lots of beer. Like, why the fuck would I start now, kind of thing?
You just start eating Wonder Bread.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I love I eat Cliff Bars religiously. Maybe too many than I'm supposed to eat in a normal day. But yeah, protein shakes. Like I had 4 eggs for breakfast this morning. So like I'm trying to do things to put on healthy weight.
Yeah.
And just like
Not just belly fat, not middle-aged belly fat. So what about the material for the next run? Is it going to be a different set? More?
Oh yeah, the next run's a headliner, so I think it's going to be like an hour 20 set.
So you don't have it yet?
I know we're playing Zombie 1, Zombie 2 back to back, which is the most physically intense stuff in the entire.
Have you tried to run it yet?
I've run both of them separately. I haven't run them together. There's one song in the new EP, the Zombie 2 EP, that we haven't played live outside of once in a live stream, and it was one of those kind of songs where like I felt like I was going to die playing it.
And you're going to have to do it how many times?
And I have to do that probably, I think, like 31 or 32 times.
And is it the end of the show?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's going to be the toughest part about that, because this set list is going to be full throttle the whole fucking way through. I mean, there's going to be like, 30-second breaks here and there. It's not like song. It'll probably be like, 3 songs break, 3 songs break, so on and so forth.
What's a headliner show for you? 90 minutes?
Yeah, about that. Like probably hour 20.
That's a lot of notes, dude.
That's a lot of notes.
You're going to be catching those heads on fire.
Yeah, especially with metal. I mean, the last time we played through it, this whole Zombie 2 EP, I was still a very like heavy smoker. So I think, when I tracked that EP and then when I played that EP during the live stream, I was definitely at a disadvantage to myself, because my lung capacity just wasn't there to like be breathing properly playing this stuff like I should have been. So now I feel like I have a leg up because I've already played through all of the material. I know the songs. It's not a question of not knowing the material. It's just playing that all consecutively while...
I mean, thousands of people yelling at you.
Yeah.
Now, is everything clicked so you don't have to worry about that?
Yeah.
That's
There's
good.
like, it's even virtual set list. That's something our key player and MD John started doing, is actually like caught like during an interlude or something. At the end of the song, I'd be like, all right, next song, this song. 30 seconds. Oh,
you've got like a vocal guide?
Yeah, 20 seconds.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and then the click will start. So it's always like 8 clicks before the downbeat.
Now, what is in your in-ear mix?
An aggressive amount of click track, like an unholy amount of click track. Like it's a pretty good stereo mix of the drums, because we use the Behringer X32, so everybody has the phone app. So everybody, and they keep an iPad on stage too. So if anybody needs to change their mix, they can just be like, "All right, give me more guitar."
Oh, nice.
So everything's controllable by like a smartphone or an iPad, which is very convenient. When I remember when I first joined the band, they're like, "All right, download this app. That's how you control your in-ear mix." I'm like, I'm sorry, what? That's a thing?
You don't get the point and do this anymore?
Yeah. I'd be like, kick drum, dime this. That's like why I'm partially deaf in my left ear, is because of so many years of having a wedge on my left and just drilling it with kick drum and snare. So there's, I like to say I have just visually selective hearing. But realistically, like, I can hear this. I can hear it better over here than I can over here.
I got the same. If I'm on the phone, it has to be in my right ear. Although I gave myself a hearing test a couple of months ago, and they were identical. I think there's a certain amount of damage that just makes it feel muffled.
Yes.
But it's not actually compromised.
Yeah,
which is weird.
That's definitely how I feel as well. So I've tried to get more into the habit of, like, when I'm going to a concert or something, bringing like my erasers, like earplugs.
How cool are those? Those are my favorite earplugs.
They're incredible. Because they, like, I just love them because they bring everything down without killing the sound quality.
Yeah, and you don't feel like you've got your fingers in your ears.
Yeah.
So you can have a conversation.
Yeah, and you don't have to yell. You're not doing this where the person beside you is doing this when you're trying to talk to them to try and filter it, It's very nice. But yeah, mix is, a good stereo blend of the kit. Because, like, I have to... It's tough with in-ears, too, because in some rooms you don't get a very accurate sound of, like, what the kit actually is behind it. So when you take your in-ears out, you're like, oh, okay, like, this is what the drums sound like. They sound good. And sometimes in some rooms, the mix can sound just like a little wacky, even though the mix itself doesn't change. Just the sound quality, like all the weird nuances that affect how, you know, a drum resonates in a room.
Right.
All those things kind of factor in. But even overheads, because like I have hi-hat and overheads in my mix because I'm the only one actively making noise on stage outside of the vocalist. There's no cabs on stage.
Wow, that must be, for someone standing side stage, must be so funny.
Yeah. Well, that's why whenever like we have friends,
Like a bunch of mimes.
Yeah, that's why we have like friends or family out. They're like, "Where's the best place to stand?" I'm like, "You don't want to be
Front
side
house.
stage. Like, you're not going to hear shit. You're going to hear my drums. That's it." Where it's like the Leo in me wants to be like, "Yeah, stand side stage. Oh, here's my drums." I want you to hear like how good it sounds at front of house.
Yeah.
You know, it's like because all the other musicians, you know, the guitarist, bassist, keys. All the textural elements of like, you know, backing tracks and interludes, the subs, like those are all such integral parts of like a Prada set where people are like, what's the best place to I'm like, literally go to the front, like right in front of the soundboard
Yeah.
if there's room over there and stand there for the entire fucking set because you're going to get the best sound from like right there. That's the mix seat.
That's got to be, you guys have got to be pretty easy for your front of house then.
Yeah.
There's not dealing with mic and
It
cabinets.
used to
and
be
stuff.
all cabs facing backstage.
Oof, not good for you.
No. Like, it was cool hearing guitars on stage, but then for the sake of my in-ear mix, it fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Where, like, I love the idea of, you know, like, you know, tube amps, you know, getting driven through these, like, boutique cabs. Because, like, all the guys in our band used to be, like, really big boutique, like, amp heads. And they still have, you know, incredible amp setups at home and stuff. But then our one guitarist, Kyle, started playing these Synergy amps, which I guess I don't know much about, you know, guitar amplification or guitar stuff, but it looks like your interface where it's like a little module, like a Nintendo cartridge that plugs into a power amp. And there's actually power tubes in it. So where it works like a modeler, it still has, it works like a Kemper or something. It still has it's being driven by power tubes.
Interesting.
So it's like an actual guitar head and modeler in this tiny rack unit package. So that's what our frontman Mike uses for one of the songs, Chemical, on our set. He has one of those on stage, and that unit is literally like just a little bit bigger than your interface. Stage left guitar, Jeremy, has a redundant Helix system that he uses. And then stage right, Kyle, he uses the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, which is essentially a fucking supercomputer.
Yeah, I've heard those are great. So do you have like dummy cabinets or no?
None.
So it's just
naked stage.
dudes with wireless, so they're just running around with guitars?
No, not wireless. They're still cable. They're still
Okay.
cabled in. And then bass, same thing. He uses, I think, this modeler from Dark Glass Electronics. That's like a whole other level of wild tech that I'm a drummer. I don't need to worry about electronic stuff. You know, my drum.
That's got to be so consistent.
It is. It's extremely consistent. Like, and that's I think why they do it, because now they don't have to rent backline shit when we go overseas or go do a festival appearance, because their entire amp and pedal boards all fit in a pedal board case.
That's amazing.
So-
Ed, you can't do that.
No, literally, like I have 2 coffins for my rig, and I play a 4-piece. So my one coffin is kick drum, pedal case, rug, backup heads, and my throne top. And then the other case is floor tom, snare, high tom, sticks and accessories, and then all the hardware stacked vertically in like a long boat.
What do you do when you go overseas? You just rent?
Rent a backline. The only thing I'll fly with are cymbals and pedals and sticks. It's because for some reason pro marks are really difficult to find overseas.
Really?
Yeah,
That's kind of surprised. You think the Dario would be everywhere, but
that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I would hope. You know, because it would be real sick to be able to walk into a music shop and, you know, like old London town and be like, yo, give me that Shirakashi Oak 747. Boop, there you are. It's like, no. Okay, I have Hickory 5A, Hickory 5B. 5A.
whatever
cool.
you got.
Seriously. Seriously.
Well, we're getting close to the hour here, I think.
Any questions we missed?
Oh, let me see. I
have a tendency to ramble.
That's my favorite interview, is when I don't have to do anything. Yeah. Last question. This is on every episode. What was your first snare drum?
First snare drum was a crappy steel 5-inch by 14 Rox, ROXX.
ROXX. Where did that come from?
Sam's Club.
Sam's Club.
When I was,
I wonder who made that.
it was so that the Sam's Club was still called Pace at the time, mind you. PACE.
Yes.
And I was in 4th grade. My older brother was in 5th. My older brother was actually taking drum lessons in elementary school. At the time, I was learning how to play clarinet.
No kidding. Do you still play?
No, fuck no. I made it like
stick.
much to my mom's chagrin. Sorry, Mom. She wanted me to be the next Kenny G.
I mean, not a bad aspiration.
No, not at all. Just like what woodwind instruments to me, like I gave it a go, and like I thought it was a cool thing, but I just wasn't good at it. So from there, I went to piano to guitar, then guitar to drums.
How old when you were playing drums?
I started pretty much as soon as my older brother got that drum kit, because like he didn't put a lot of time in on it, but when I saw it, I was like.
And you were how old? Did you say it already?
I was 9 years old.
Okay, so you started early with clarinet then.
Yeah.
4th grade, you said?
Yep.
So within a year, you've gone to 4 instruments?
Yeah.
Do you maintain any of them?
Guitar, drums, and piano the most. So
Okay.
I ended up taking about 5 years of classical piano.
Okay.
And that was kind of my gateway for music in general. From there, I went to guitar because my dad bought like an acoustic at some garage sale. So I started like plucking around on that. And then about a couple years after that, he bought an electric guitar. And that's when I was like, okay, like that was around the time guitar tabs started getting popular. And I was like, well, I don't know how to read guitar like sheet music. I can write like kind of sight read piano sheet music, but I don't know where all that is on a fretboard. But I was like, oh, guitar tabs will teach me how to play the song I just heard on the radio. Okay, 4 on this one, 5 on this one. Okay, oh, I can like play power chords now. Sick. So I started playing, like I remember learning how to play Creed on guitar. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Was it like Guitar World magazine or something?
something like that.
Now, did you find piano, was it easy? When someone says they studied piano at an early age, my first inclination is that must have been really difficult. Or did you find like this is super easy? Was it like the code, like you all of a sudden you could see music?
I don't know what it is exactly, but I had this thing when I was a kid where I could hear a melody and immediately replicate it on a piano, just with one hand, not like in a complex fashion. I wasn't like a child virtuoso, but I learned things by ear, like frighteningly quickly, to the point where my parents discovered that when I was, I think probably like 6 or 7. My aunt had a little like Casio keyboard at her house, and every year for Christmas we'd go over for traditional Italian Christmas meal, the Feast of the Seven Fish, La Festa di Sette Pesci. And I would sneak away to the living room in the dark, switch on the Casio keyboard and turn on the little radio that was next to it and just start playing along to whatever came on the radio.
Oh, so you have the music genes in you.
Yeah. And because my dad played accordion like
Okay.
a freaking beast. So I think somehow I got that, but he was he could like read music. He played with a band back in Italy on accordion when he was younger.
Nice.
So like, I mean, hearing this dude play accordion, like I'll try and find a video, or I'll just have him pull it out next time I go back to my parents' house and be like, Dad, play it for me right now. I need to capture this on video.
Yeah, I got to see that.
Because he's very. It's insane how talented he is at accordion, and that's such a difficult instrument.
Bandonion a different version of an accordion? Is that what it's called? Bandonion? I think of the big Italian version.
I think it's something like that.
I saw a dude play that with I think it was the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and it was some of the most gorgeous. It was like tango music for classical.
Yeah, and
absolutely gorgeous. Not like what I think of an accordion of just some
like hearing like
going,
yeah, well, like hearing like an Italian play like a traditional tarantella on accordion, it's mesmerizing.
So was he playing that when you were a kid?
Yeah, I literally have photos back home at my parents' house of me sitting next to my grandfather, may he rest in peace, playing an accordion that like he made.
Oh, okay. So you were hearing music at a very early age.
Very, 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 very.
Because my parents got me one of those toy pianos, and I, for life of me, couldn't even play like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I was like, I don't understand this. I just would start banging on it.
Like once I learned like basic scales and placement, like I mean, I'm still not, I'm not like a, symphonic pianist by any way, shape, or form, and I can't like. I stopped taking piano lessons because I hated reading music. I liked writing, and I liked learning by ear much more. Like you put notation in front of me, I'm like, this is fucking boring. Like the idiot that I was, like I wish I would have kept more up on like sight reading, like melodies and stuff, just because there's certain trains of thought where you have conservatory players. I'm sure you know more than most, you know, being a part of like the Broadway world and stuff, where people set down a chart in front of you and they just be like,
it's freaky.
Play the whole thing, but then be like, all right, just like improvise.
They can't play a blues.
Improvise something for me. Like, it's the same train of thought to like some marching percussionists, and then have them sit behind a kit and just play
a groove,
play a stony little fucking funk jam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like boot cat, like no pocket. You know what I mean? It's that.
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, I've gone through the whole academic world, and I kind of see both sides. I think, honestly, personally, if you're born with good ears, that's always the way to go. Maybe just fill the gaps. Like, what am I hearing? How do I understand it theoretically? But to force someone to learn to read if they can just transcribe it instantly, what's the point?
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like that's one of those things where, you know, there's some jobs where it's like you have to have a college degree. It's like, why? I don't know. That's just what it is. You need the college degree for this job.
But I can already do it.
I've been doing this job for years. You know, so like there was having people that have went, you know, the university route for music and stuff, where I wanted to do that. You know, I wanted to go to Duquesne Mary Papert School of Music because that's, you know, my dad got his Juris Doctorate from Duquesne University and wanted me to go to Duquesne. I couldn't pass the audition. I could because
you couldn't read well enough.
I could read well enough for like symphonic percussion. I mean, not like the formality shit, but that was the thing. They wanted me to be like at that school. They're like, you have to do all like concert percussion. So like I had to do a 4-mallet like marimba or xylophone piece. I had to do, you know, multiple clutchings with a timpani.
Yep.
I had to do concert snare with proper concert snare technique. And I just been fucking marching for 4 years. How am I going to break marching technique to play fucking concert? They're two different worlds. To the point where I'm like, this is just not for me. Yeah. And then I was playing in local bands and they're like, hey, we're going to go on tour. Are you able to tour? Like, I don't have to drop out of college, but yeah. Dropped out of college, started touring, and never looked back.
Well, you don't have all that student loan debt to deal with.
Thank heavens.
Well, I said that was the last question. I asked you 5 more questions. But so we had your first snare drum.
Yep.
What was your first kit? And that'll be it.
That first kit, it was the Rocks kit. The snare came with it.
And how long did it last you?
I still have it in that other room.
No way.
That crazy-ass multicolored kit. All the weird paint.
Sweet. We're gonna go check it out now.
That's my very first drum kit. It used to be a piano black vinyl wrap, and for my senior project in high school, because my mom's an artist, like a visual artist, and ran like a private ceramic studio and was an art education major. For my senior project, we stripped that whole thing and we hand painted that entire shell pack.
Oh, dope! We gotta get a picture of that. Drop it in.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Cheers, brother.
Okay, that's it for this week's episode. I cannot believe it's been a year, and I look forward to many more. Thank you all again for support. Please head over and give us a review. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that really does help the show rank higher when people search for drum podcasts. So head over to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Drop a few words into the review section. Drop some comments on the YouTube channel. Subscribe over there. All that stuff, all the like, share, subscribe, it's all much appreciated. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.